Hello, everyone. This is Colleen Tatum. We are having day 3. I think it's day 3. Yes, day 3 or day 4. I don't know. It all blends together now, especially in COVID days. What is days anymore? I don't even know. But it's Canada United Week. And in celebration or support of that, I decided to go live every day for a week and interview different local businesses, different Alberta or Canadian businesses that are adding so much value to our lives, and try and support them and get the word out for them and for you. So if there's something that you're looking for now, hopefully you know where to go and connect with those products or services so that we can all kind of together intentionally support each other through this time, because it's been a bit bumpy. So today I forgot to ask you, I think it's Shayla. Is that how I say your name? I was like on my notes, I'm like, make sure I ask her ahead of time how to say her name properly. And then I totally forgot. So I apologize.
All good.
So I have Shayla Williams. She is owner of Discovery Keys. They are a music class in Fort McMurray. And she has been doing this for, have you been teaching since you were 14? Is that what I gathered from the notes?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so it's been quite a while.
So you teach piano.
Yeah, so I personally teach piano, guitar, and ukulele. And then in my studio as well, we have violin and cello as well, and another guitar teacher, not just me.
That's so cool. So it's you, and then you actually have people working with and for you.
Yeah, I've got 5 other teachers that I work with out of the studio that I guess work for me, but it's really weird saying that. So I work together.
Own it.
Yeah, actually, I guess there's 7 of us. Yeah, we just got a seven teacher. We just got a new violin teacher, actually. I'm really excited to have on board.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you have this, so you're basically almost like a liaison between people that need classes and then the teachers, and then connecting them together so that they can get the lessons that they want.
Yeah, and we're in the process of actually expanding to a larger studio space.
Wow.
We'll all be sort of in the same space and all together. It'll just be a one, you can just take your kid and you don't have to be at multiple locations type of thing.
Oh my goodness. So different kids to be doing different lessons at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's really awesome, because I'll be honest with you, I had signed my kids up for piano lessons. I think it was last year, maybe the year before. They all wanted to do it. And then I have 3 kids. And so they were at different times. And then it was almost like they were out of home for so long after school. And it was too much for us that we weren't able to continue. So that's really cool to be able to do that. I think that's a huge win for parents. Where is the studio?
So right now we're located out of my house in Timberley. We're in the process, I can't give specific details right now because we're still finalizing leases and stuff like that, but it will still be in Timberley, the Timberley area. So I'm really excited.
That's so cool. I'm excited for you. But since COVID and isolation and all the new rules, tell me, how has that affected your business?
So it surprisingly hasn't affected me a lot. When school shut down, I automatically switched to online. I'd already been preparing because I suspected it was. I'm in a Facebook group for teachers who are worldwide. And so this has been a discussion we've been having since February. And so when I saw what was happening in Europe and whatnot, I thought, you know what, this is going to happen, whether we, and so I started preparing my teachers. This is the programs we're going to do. And I announced to my studio, hey guys, next week we're going online for anyone who wants to. And then school shut down and I said, actually, we're going online.
We are online.
And I lost a couple of students, which I expected. I mean, as parents lose jobs, they support it, and I don't blame them. But for the most part, my studio has really been affected. I actually picked up a lot of extra students of parents who were like, I need my kid to do something. We're able to have a lot of students join the studio and even just do some intro to piano stuff and work and intro to guitar to kind of give them something to have as a set, sort of curriculum throughout the pandemic and while COVID, everything was shut down. And kids practicing was freaking fantastic.
Wow.
Practicing because they didn't have a lot to do. And so they were like, oh, I practice every day. And I was like, So it hasn't really been affected. I am very fortunate that as a music teacher, especially with piano and guitar, that it is something that can be done online. It can be done virtually. And so that's been a huge, huge blessing for me for sure and my teachers.
Yeah, it's been so interesting to watch all of these things convert to online, like music lessons or even exercising and all these different activities that now we have access to. And, you know, us living up in the north, sometimes that's been a barrier, right? We don't have access to some of the classes we might want to do. And so online is such an amazing platform that we're able to do that. And I think it's a really cool thing that's continuing as we sort of recreate the new normal, right?
Totally.
Because theoretically, you could teach someone that's not even in Canada music lessons then, right?
Well, it's funny because I always scoffed at online teaching. I was like, no, but I actually know a lady. She and her husband travel the world. They've got 2 kids now, and she teaches online. Like she's
Wow.
been online for years. She actually has an entire like web series that she's created. Like she's known because she's big in that field, and that's all she does. And literally, she and her husband have been everywhere,
Wow.
and because he's a photographer, he's a freelance photographer, and so when I was like, okay, if she can do it and she can teach people all around the world who seek her out and love her, like I can do this with my own students, my own studio. And there are challenges to online teaching for sure, especially with my advanced students, you know, when they're playing like a Mozart sonata, it is very hard to hear the very detailed parts of it online. But then they can record it and send it to me. So that aspect, it is more challenging. But then as a teacher, it forces me to be more creative, right? And to mix things up and realize that, okay, I have to format my lessons differently. If I've got a young child, we can't necessarily sit on the floor and play a game. So what's a game we can still do, you know, online? What's a way that we can break things up and make it different? I've been using Zoom and I've been using the screen share, and my students love it because we can do a lot of things now with that make it more of a normal lesson, like note naming and rhythms and things like that. But it's definitely very different.
It is. I'm sure it is. And of course, there's always going to be a place for in-person things. It's just the energy transfer even, you know, I work all online now in my business, and the energy transfer isn't the same, right? So we're learning, how can we connect with people on Zoom? How can we make sure we're still reading the client? They're giving you, you know, a lot of communication isn't just verbal, right? It's seeing their cues, reading their body language, and, you know, even their energy, which music is really like an energy where people can feel music that maybe even can't hear in a traditional speaking, right? So it's so interesting how we are navigating, being able to learn how to connect and communicate differently through these different platforms. But I love what you said, because it's like, first of all, I was like, oh, I don't want to do that, right? And I think a lot of us are feeling that way right now with all the different things that are happening. You know, change is hard as humans, and our reaction is like, oh, I'm not going to do that, right? That's our natural reaction. And it's almost like our caveman days. It was, we wanted to protect ourselves so we didn't get eaten by saber-toothed lions or whatever, right? So our natural reaction was to ward off new things, because, you know, that new mushroom that someone ate might be poisonous, so you don't try new things.
Exactly.
Right? But we have to retrain ourselves to say, okay, is what I'm pushing back against actually dangerous to myself? Is it actually something that I should be fearful of? Or is it something that is maybe going to lead to an even better way of doing things that we didn't even know was possible before?
Exactly. Well, and it's well, like a thing that I realized a couple of weeks ago, because one of the policies when we go back to in-person teaching is, you know, if a student's sick, they can't come to class. Like sometimes they've got a runny nose or cough, they'll still come. But I just thought, I have so many teachers and so many students, we just can't. We're trying to keep sickness as low as possible. And then I realized, but they still can. They just do an online lesson. Like what a cool thing to do, that if they're still feeling well enough to do a lesson, they can still have it. It doesn't change anything. It just means it's online instead. So in some ways I was like, wow, this is a great asset. This is which I thought of before. It would have saved me some. Or a student is like, they have to go out of town, but they still have access to a piano. we can still do the lesson, right? You can still have the lesson, and then the parents still feel like, oh, cool, it still works, sort of thing. So
yeah, they still got value out of it. I love it. It's so interesting. And of course, exactly like that. So many parents, we're sending our kids back to school and some kids are back to school or going back to school in the next couple of weeks. And what does that mean? And how do we still do the things we want to do and have value and quality in our lives? And we don't have to do everything in person anymore. Which has brought about this whole kind of homeschool revolution that's happening right now. And I think you said that your child is just getting to school age. Is that correct?
yeah, our oldest is turning 4 next month, which is just a really weird thought, but yeah.
It is. My youngest just turned 7 today, and it is really weird. Like, it feels like the baby stage is going to be forever, and then all of a sudden you have like these young children, and then pretty soon I'll have young adults, which is just really strange. And time goes by so incredibly fast, and the things that they're doing are just always changing and stuff like that. But so many people are homeschooling. It's been really interesting because for me, I have some people that I know that do unschooling. So I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but really it's very almost radical. It's student led. There's no worksheets. It's just not school like we think of school. And when I first heard that they were doing that, I was like, wow, you guys have really gone way over the edge. I don't get you. This is way too granola for me. And I think you're almost like being irresponsible. And it's funny because my eldest son, he's had some struggles, not with academics, but with maybe school life, especially post 2016. For those that are watching, maybe not in Fort McMurray, we had a very large natural disaster. There was a wildfire in Fort McMurray, and a lot of kids have kind of PTSD and anxiety after that. So he definitely is one of those kids that's been struggling in school. So I started learning about homeschooling. I felt like it was something I wanted to do, but I was so scared of trying it. And now the universe has kind of created this situation where we all had to try it, no matter if we liked it or not, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and we always plan to homeschool. So I feel for the parents. I know there's a lot of parents right now that have children my daughter's age, and in Fort McMurray, it's very common to put your child in school at 4. The sort of, for anyone who's not familiar, it's basically preschool, but it's just normal school. But for us, we were never planning on it. And I know a lot of parents have a lot of they feel like they're failing their child because they're not putting them in this program. And I said, guys, Pinterest, go on Pinterest. That's place. Like that's the best age to do things. You want to talk unschooling, that's the best age. They ask a question, you add, like today, my husband and my daughter were talking about, what was she asking? She was asking where bread came from.
Oh my goodness.
And so we did this whole explanation of wheat, and we said, like, it turns into flour. And she's like, no, so we got to show her this is flour. Those are flowers. And she's
right.
Like, that's weird. But it's just such a cool way. It gets you talking, it gets you engaging with your kids. And yeah. Well, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how long we homeschool for, but
yeah, it is. It's so different. And so I guess for you, as now more and more parents are homeschooling this year, I read that Edmonton Public Schools has a third of their students are opting for homeschool this year, or let's be clear, there's also a difference between school at home online and homeschooling, but more parents are doing homeschooling, which maybe is giving more and more people looking for places like yours to be able to add in these extra activities for their kids, and knowing that they don't have to do it all alone. They can find resources within the community like yourself where they can online or in person be able to do music lessons and be able to dedicate the time during the day instead of not necessarily the nighttime. So where before probably you were mostly only working evenings and weekends, I imagine, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's been cool. I have been contacted by a lot more parents who are interested in doing daytime lessons, which I'm like, yes. It is, like I work from 3:30 to 9 every day, and it's exhausting, and it's mostly difficult because I don't see my kids, right? Which is also why we decided to homeschool, because otherwise they'll get home from school and mom's working.
So interesting.
And so we thought this is a way, and my husband has a much more flexible, he can pick his hours. He's self-employed as well. So we thought this is a way that we can still be there with our kids. And then when they go with a babysitter or to daycare, we've still spent half the day with them and been able to be with them this whole day and work with them. And now we go to work and they get to go play with their friends.
Yes, it's so cool. And so, if your kids aren't homeschooling, she is doing normal after school and weekend lessons too. I think it's just really neat because you can even expand that offering. So, from a business point of view, your window to create revenue has just increased, which is really amazing place to be as a business owner. Because it's not like that, and especially in these times, it's not necessarily like that for other types of businesses. So if a parent wants to do a class with you, how do they find you? Where are they connecting with you?
So my biggest right now way of traffic is my Facebook page, Discovery Keys Music. Parents can message us on there, and we have group classes and we have private classes as well. We are we've got a couple of daytime group classes that are still filling up, and some of the evenings as well. And then for private, same thing, we've got open availability. So they can message the Facebook page and let us know what instrument's important, because we offer more than just piano.
Yes.
Requesting, I'm interested in this. I'm like, I need to know what instrument first.
Which instruments do you do again?
So piano, guitar, ukulele, violin, and cello.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we're hoping to bring in voice, but I'm not going to bother that this year. So I'm hoping in the next year. So we'll add in voice and hopefully a choir as well as our goal. To get a community choir for children going as well. But that's what they can do. They can message the page and let us know what they're looking for. And then we can, after that, give them prices and what the options are, like group classes. Age is also important to know the age of the child, because certain instruments we won't start until a certain age. Like guitar, I recommend not starting until they're 6. So if you come with a 4-year-old with guitar, I'll recommend, if you still want them in music, I'd recommend piano first, because piano we start at 3 for our group classes.
Is that because of like the way their hands are developed, or?
Yeah, it's finger strength as well. Like piano is nice because it doesn't, starting off the very basics, we're focusing mostly on posture and moving your fingers, but difficulty wise, it's quite easy to push down on a piano key. That's why, we have young kids that love pounding on a piano because it's easy to make that sound. But like with the guitar, for instance, you've got to push down on the strings and the frets, and that can be very challenging. Plus the size of the hand, right? Because you do need to be able to get over the neck of the guitar and then push on the strings, and that, even for an adult, that can be difficult to do, and your fingers do take a beating. And so we recommend waiting until they're 6 or 7, just so they have that strength and they don't get discouraged. Violin, you can start as young as 4 or 5, but again, it's the same thing. You've got to worry about that finger strength, right? And that finger dexterity. And you've got a 3-year-old and violin, especially in cello, they're a bit more of a focused instrument. Piano, I find you can, if kids aren't as focused, it's not as big of a deal, but with the string, it's a bit more of like a logic instrument for sure. And so again, same thing. It's all based on finger strength, and we don't set a child up for something that they're going to fail at just because that's just not fair, because then they feel like they never want to do it ever again. But if you wait for an age where they can thrive with that instrument, then they'll take to it like a fish in water and be really happy.
That's really good advice, for sure, because you don't want them to feel unsuccessful and then hate music, right?
Exactly.
It's not the goal.
No,
I think it's fun. So what ways do you do to make piano fun for a 3-year-old? Like a 3-year-old, that's really young. And, I think of it and I'm like, wow, I can't imagine a 3-year-old sitting and doing that. And then is it like, do your piano lessons and you have to sit, and how does that work?
It's definitely different. So there's a program called Music for Young Children. I don't teach it out of the studio. There are some teachers that do it in Fort McMurray. It's a fantastic program, but that's how I know it can work. When the lady originally, her name was Frances, when she originally designed the program, people were like, a 3-year-old? Are you kidding? But Well, 3-year-olds, they just want to play. If you're focusing on sit at the piano and make it, you have to play this, you have to play this, of course they're not gonna do it. But I mean, like my daughter, she's turning 4, but she's been in piano for a year, and she loves it. And it's all about making it fun. It's all about making stories and singing, and they can do rhythms. Like a 3-year-old gets rhythm like holy smokes. And it was also nice is when they're this young, you can start doing ear training, which we don't think about really as being a thing. You have to, super important, but ear training is so critical to being a musician. And the younger you start with basic ear training, the better your ear is as you're older. I really think it was that big of a deal. I thought, well, of course, anyone can tell if something's going up or down in music. Like, what's the big deal? Until I started teaching group classes and I'd have parents with me and the kids would hear it and they'd know right away what it was. And the parents would go, well, are you sure? I don't know. And I'd be like, what? But it's something that I've taken for granted as a musician because I've been doing piano since I was 3. I've had that training. My dad was a teacher. We had no choice but to have music. And so when you start this young, you can teach the concepts of high and low. Is this a high sound? Is it a low sound? Is music going up or down? Is it loud or quiet? And it seems like a really basic concept, but when you do things like stretch up high when the sound is high, the kids are moving and they think it's awesome. Oh, touch your toes when the notes are low. They go down and touch their toes. And I've had kids as young as 18 months being able to figure this out, and they love it. And so it's all about recognizing that these kids, you're not expecting them to be Mozart. Well, there's only one Mozart for a reason. To just have fun and be creative and explore. And if they can actually identify the notes on the piano in the meantime, awesome. And which they can, because it's just pattern recognition. And I think we forget that at 3 that kids can do that. We just have to give them the opportunity, and we have to break it down and make our expectations realistic for them and not put pressure. Because if we don't put pressure on them and we make it fun and we make it you know what, you'll get there, I'm not rushing it, they are a lot more receptive, and suddenly they can identify all the patterns, they can identify all the notes on the piano, and they can play Mary Had a Little Lamb, and you're like, what? This kid's 3 years old. And then the parents feel like, oh, check out my child. But for this child, they are perfectly capable of doing it. Just as a teacher, you have to recognize that they're 3, they're 4, they're 5 years old. Don't expect them to be an 8-year-old. Don't expect them to sit for 5-10 minutes at the piano. It's not going to happen. I remember the rule of thumb I was always given was you do their age, and I think it's half their age, like a minute and a half. If there's activity is a minute and a half, and then you go to the next activity. And it means there's lots of, you can do the same concept being taught 10 times in a row, just in a different format. But it means that minute and a half at the piano, minute and a half on the floor, minute and a half doing this, and you're still maybe teaching the same concept, but they're moving. And so they're not staying stationary. And that's when the kids' focus goes. It's when they're staying stationary and they're doing the same thing over and over again. And their mind is gone. They don't care anymore what you're doing. And so you have to make sure that you are focused, you are presenting the material at the level of the age. Whereas a 7 or 8-year-old, they can sit still for 10 minutes and you can tell them, play this song all the way through. I need you to play this part again. That's when you start getting the more focused part. But again, it's what the age can handle. And some 7-year-olds can't. Some 7-year-olds, I still have to be like, okay, let's break up this lesson and let's do a little bit more mini lessons, do more mini activities in our lesson, right? So yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
That's a wonderful explanation. Yeah, because, I don't know about other people, but when I think of music or piano, sometimes I think of almost like the old, matronly sort of.
Very regimented.
Regimented. And what did you have? Oh, a governess. You have to learn how to sit properly, and you have to learn how to do your piano, and you have to put a book on your head and do all these things, right? And it's not really reality. I mean, I guess it works back then. I feel like they obviously, there was a lot more hitting and stuff going on, but we want our kids to enjoy it, but at the same time, how in the heck do you make a 3-year-old learn piano? And then you're thinking, okay, well, my kid is climbing all over the couch and stuff. I couldn't possibly send them to piano because they're not going to sit there and do it. So I'm not even going to try. But what I'm hearing is that my goodness, you have so many different techniques that you use to make it actually available for any 3-year-old to be able to enjoy the activity and actually get value out of it.
Well, that's the most common thing I get from parents is, just like a warning, my kid is really active. I'm like, awesome. Or they'll go, my child has ADHD. And I'm like, okay, so they're just like the reality is a 10-year-old with ADHD at piano is no different than an average 10-year-old with ADHD, in my experience, at least.
Good to know.
They get distracted, but I mean, every kid gets distracted. Every kid, you can't sit them for half an hour straight at the unless they're a very, very classically trained musician and they're, like playing these, that it's a type of personality of a kid. But like, it's all about making it fun. And when parents tell me that and they almost are apologizing, I'm like, this is what makes it fun as a teacher. If it makes it kind of hard for me to know what they're doing. But if they're like, I'm bored, okay, try something else. Or I don't want to do this. I want to do something else. Thanks for telling me. Let's try something else then, right? So I love it when kids have energy. I love it when 3-year-olds come and they're just goofballs, because you can have so much fun in a class of 6 3-year-olds who are goofballs. Like, you can do so much with them, and then they learn together and they feed off each other. But they want to outdo each other. And so you'll ask a question and you'll have 6 kids yelling, trying to get the right answer before the other person does. And then they're determined to memorize it. So it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy actually teaching that age, because they are just so full of energy.
Yeah, you sound really wonderful, because a lot of people I know, even me as a parent, that you would be worried because you're thinking that it's going to be very structured and governess-like. And what I'm hearing is it's really not. And it sounds like you do a wonderful job with the ages and adapting to it. And you can really tell that you really do enjoy it. And so I think it must really produce such a wonderful experience for the kids, because I could tell that you love what you do, which is amazing. And I'm excited for all the kids that get to work with you. It seems like you certainly have a wonderful program for them. And, everything figured out, whether it's in-person lessons or online lessons or whatever it is, group or private, that they can come and learn about music and learn about themselves and be able to just enjoy themselves and get to love music, which I think is such a wonderful thing.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, it was so nice meeting you today and hearing more about what you do. I really, really enjoyed it. We have quite a few people watching. We have lots of people giving you shout outs. So awesome. You're very loved, I think, which is a testament to, again, what a wonderful job you do. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please do share the video. The goal of this week is to get businesses as much attention as possible. The truth is that Canada United isn't just a weekend or a week. It's something that we have to do intentionally, I think, here on out, pandemic or no pandemic. Small businesses, whether it's a music class or whether it's a nail salon or whether it's a restaurant or the clothing store, those are the things that make our community a community. Those are the things that add value to our lives. And if we don't support them, they can't support us in adding that value to our life. So Canada United, if you're on Twitter and you tweet that hashtag, RBC is giving 5 cents for every tweet into a business fund. There's also some contests happening this weekend if you go to gocanadaunited.ca, as well as, just like I said, shop local, be intentional. We need to stick together and make sure that we all make it through this moment in time as well as we can. And being together is going to be the best way of doing that. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah,
it was awesome. You did a great job. Okay, have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.